Hi, I'm Heinbach, and it's good to have you back. It's Knives Out time again here in my studio, because in my endless search on eBay to find cool instruments that are rare, I picked up something a bit of an oddity, a failed instrument from a company that usually makes watches. Let's have a look inside. Original packaging in here. Cool manual, so 80s. This looks like a regular entertainer keyboard, but there's a part that you can add. Okay. Oh my god. This is the sequencer part. That seems to work. At least it doesn't rattle. Never power on a synthesizer that's rattling inside. So let's do some fixing. So it's only this thing that's broken. I'm gonna try to repair this with garbage parts. So, this should do the trick. Let's see if this holds. Like new. Gotta connect the ribbon. Now where does this turn on? Ah, here we go. That's bad. Ah, wonderful. Oh, that was just the charge that was left in the power supply. I hadn't connected the power. This is the Seiko DS202 from 1983. This is a home keyboard, but it's modular because you can expand it with a sequencer and an additive synthesizer. One of the oddest combinations I've ever seen. Does it work? Gotta love those speakers. Okay, let's see if I can connect it so you guys can hear something. That's nice in a 16-bit adventure kind of way. Okay, so far one good sound. Organ. Okay, I'm gonna skip straight ahead to flute. Again, 16-bit adventure style. I like it so far. Brass. Okay. Opposite of powerful. Before we go to the synthesizer, let's go into more of the standard keyboard features. I think it's got auto stuff here. So we got rhythm. Stereo outputs are broken. I'm gonna try the mono output. Okay. Actually kinda nice and raw. Okay. But now let's get the synthesizer to work, because I think that's the interesting part. So what we have here is an additive synthesizer, meaning it creates sounds by adding sine waves, basically overtones. And with that mixture of overtones, you can create theoretically unlimited sounds. From what I gather, this slider sets the intensity and this slider sets the envelope. And there are 4 envelopes in here, which should result in some pretty beautiful pads, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm just gonna try to make some sounds now. Wonderful! Okay, so let's do another sound. With a bit of trial and error, I managed to figure out how the sound programming works on the 310, and it's fascinating. First, you select a sound from the tone memory, and you can save up to 4. And now this one is cleared, and the secret to the programming lies in the part selector. In many other synthesizers, especially the Rolands, you create sounds by layering. Not in this case. You do a sequential drift through tonal shapes. What that means is you can assign different sounds to the attack phase, the sustain phase, and the release phase. Let me walk you through it. So for editing that, I select attack and then I click spectrum. And now, using the intensity, I can set one sound. Very simple sine wave. Now I move to sustain and I'm gonna set an overtone for this. So we get an overtone progression. Let's take the 4th, set that also at high intensity. And now I'm going to the release phase. And now let's program a nice big wash of sound. We dip, step back, set that to 0. You can jump with the step buttons here. And now let's Takes a bit to update, goes very slow. It's not the fastest of digital computers, of course. So let's take the 8th, just a bit. And now nothing, and then 10th. Nothing, and then 12th. And now we're gonna get progressively bigger. Nice rain of overtones. And now I can assign an envelope to the sound. If that's all at 0, all the sounds will happen at the same time. But if I set the time for the attack phase, using the time parameter, make a nice slow attack with 1 second. And you can see that changing here. And then the attack sustain phase, a bit faster. Then the sustain release, a bit slower, and a long, nice release. That's beautiful. And you get 4 different envelope shapes. This was the first, here's the second one. Third. And the fourth. You get 3 ways in which you can further shape the sound. Let me pick a brighter tone, because we want to engage the low-pass filter. Low-pass filter on. This is the worst low-pass filter I've ever heard on any synthesizer. I really don't like it. That's why I keep it mostly off, but for you I'm gonna play once more. Why, if you can have this? All the digital noise up top is part of the reason why this synthesizer has its own character. The next way you can shape the sound is the chorus, which has 2 stages, like on the Juno 60. That's rather nice, I feel. And then there's the vibrato. I'm gonna slowly put that in. let's look at the sequencer. To have any memory to store something on it, you need these digital memory cassettes. And I got a bunch of those. Let's pick one. Maybe there's also something interesting on it. Title 1, System 2. Okay. Start. There appears to be nothing on here. Shall we try another one? Oh. Oh. Okay, nothing on here. So let's just make our own. I'm guessing this is like the QY MIDI sequences that came later by Yamaha. Because you get a real-time input, you get a manual input, and then you get your notes, and you get all these stuff, notation basically, that you can edit, and you can probably see here. Let's just see how this works. I'm gonna do a real-time input and just play something. I think I just did Game of Thrones. So let's do a manual input first. Cool. Let's do another line, manual input. Change the tempo. Ah, that's one too much. Can I clear that? Yeah, perfect. Easy. And now let's listen to. Play. Repeat. Okay, that was garbage. But that's how it works. You punch in the note values here, and then you can add all sorts of notation here to basically write little pieces in times before there was MIDI, which is really interesting. And you've got a real-time input, so you can play stuff in real time up top too. And from what I gather, you've got 4 lines. So here's a song I made with this. The sequencer is not that useful because you can't assign different sounds to the lines, so you're basically stuck with one sound spread over and the bass sound that you can also program via the chord. It's better to basically multi-track this in a digital audio workstation. This way you get all the advantages of all the different sounds, and of course you can mix this proper. There has to be said something for minimalism and doing things just in a box, but this is just a touch too limiting. So if you find the synthesizer without the sequencer, don't be sad about it. This is not necessary. The core is the DS310. Now, where does that core come from? I found out a few interesting details about who made this technology actually. It wasn't Seiko. According to synthmuseum.com, this is based on the Gray Laboratories Basin Minstrel. In the last days before the introduction of inexpensive digital synthesis, the Yamaha DX7 for example, when digital synthesizer meant a synclavier or a Fairlight costing tens of thousands of dollars, there was only one true digital synth that cost less than 5 figures, the Basin Minstrel. It was a real 100% digital synthesizer. Its operating system looked real good on paper. It had only one problem. It sounded dreadful. The sound of a bass-in minstrel makes a toy piano seem rich and full. Hey, nothing against toy pianos, they're lovely. The waveforms available were thin-sounding and buzzy, full of digital artifacts from their proprietary synthesis engine. Each voice had one source only, so even layering was not possible. I tried to create some decent sounds on the thing and couldn't come up with much that I would want to play in public. In the end, the bass-in people actually sold the technology to Seiko, who used it to build a short-lived line of synth in the mid-1980s. And why did Seiko do that? Why did Seiko decide to make their own synthesizers? Seems like an odd step for a watch company. And when I talked a bit with the guy I bought this from, it turned out that he was involved in the creation and the demoing of this very synthesizer. So I made a little interview with him.
My name is Robert Schröder, and in 1979 I have started my career as an electronic musician. My dream was to play music in the kind of Klaus Schulze. But because I did not have the money to buy such expensive instruments at the time, I was about 20 years old, I have built my first synthesizers and electronic equipment by myself. I got to know Klaus Schulze in person. He promoted me and produced and published my first 3 albums with electronic music. The German company Harman Deutschland was the distribution partner for Seiko keyboards here in Germany in the 1980s. Klaus Schulze were asked by this company if he would be interested to support the development of a new keyboard from the Seiko company in Japan. But because Klaus Schulze was a pure musician only, but I had also the knowledge of the technology through my self-built synthesizers, Schulze offered me to take over the consulting instead of him. I have spent about 2 weeks in Tokyo to support the development of the DS system. Seiko, of course, have had plans to develop further synthesizers or keyboards, but they clearly made this dependent from the success of the DS system. In my opinion, it would have been better to enter the high-end market directly, because musicians were not impressed.
The crazy thing is, Robert never got to see the results of his input until he was researching for this video. Harman sent him on the road to demo the Seiko system with the DS202, the keyboard that I have here. But in 1985, from his input, Seiko designed a completely new keyboard that ditches all the home keyboard functions and turns it into a purely synthesis-focused instrument, one that was even used by Jean-Michel Jarre. That said, from today's perspective, I enjoy all the oddball home keyboard features, because yeah, this makes this instrument just that more strange. I love oddities and failed products, because oftentimes they fail because they were a bit too cutting edge or they didn't fit within what people were expecting. And this really doesn't fit with anything, but I like it because its tone is unique. It sounds to me like a 16-bit video game in the nicest possible way. It's great for some evolving pads. It's not a synthesizer I feel I need to have permanently hooked up, but it's something that when I need that sound, I pull from storage, use it, and then take it back to storage. If you need some Seiko in your life, I've sampled the rhythm loops and I've sampled the sounds on here. Always a C, so you can spread that around in your sampler, which probably will add nice artifacts too, and of some of the sounds that I created also. And you can find these on my Patreon along with music from this video. If you have any more questions, do put them in the comments below or visit the subreddit. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.